Hi,
Okay, hey,
Robert. How
how's
are
it
you
going?
today?
Good, good. Hey, so I watched this video on HBO, and a lot of people probably know about Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. He's a comedian that has this really popular kind of talk show, and it's topical and it's about the news. But I was watching a clip, and it was actually from 3 years ago about psychics. So this clip has 15 million views, and I just feel like this clip kind of paints a really negative picture for mediumship. Um, we know that there's fraudulent psychics and mediums out there. It's unfortunately true. But the way this video kind of only shows the negative and not the positive, I was thinking we can maybe watch a couple clips and like talk through it.
Oh, I love that. It's a very passionate topic of mine, of individuals that prey on the grieving or the bereaved. So, yes, I'd love to see this.
Okay, so I'm going to play the first clip that I marked. Let's just go ahead and get into it.
I will admit, mediums make for compelling TV. Most people have seen at least one of them bring someone to tears with messages from dead loved ones like this.
Did you lose your husband, ma'am? Your husband wants to thank you for caring for him and allowing him to leave the physical world with dignity and grace.
Now, that woman is clearly genuinely touched. Although I will say, it is weird that the conduit to the afterlife is, for some reason, Teresa Caputo, living proof of what would happen if you added too much baking soda to Edie Falco. And while watching people tear up can seem incredible, the techniques that psychics use to achieve those moments are significantly less incredible. Because there are two basic techniques that psychics tend to use. The first is called cold reading. It's basically taking high probability guesses, like I'm sensing a loved one who had problems in the chest area, or is there a J or an M in a loved one's name? Here are some cold reading in action.
All right. And is there a D, like a Daniel, David? Like there's a big D. So for me, it's initials. It's usually months of the year, like December being important.
Who is the MR name? Mark, Mary, Marie. They don't have to be past. They could be here in the physical world.
Either Maureen, Marianne. There's an M name. Where's the M connection to?
Does someone have a scar on the foot?
So obviously, John Oliver is a very funny guy, and you can tell by the audience clapping; they all approve. Um, what do you think of that clip so far? We're going to get more into this, but for now,
Well, you got a comedian, so that is, that's his job, is to make things humorous or to also to find the negative and to kind of play off of that. That's what a comedian does. But the with Teresa Caputo, she's a well-known Hollywood medium, and you know what? I think that her intention, as I've watched her, is that it's always been she does want to help. She's into the healing. Now, did Hollywood get a little bit a hold of her there? Possibly, and that may be where the flamboyance piece comes out. That creating a brand around it instead of not focusing on the true topic of wanting to help and heal. And the other individual that was, I've got a name that sounds like this or it has this in it, that is that would be cold reading. That is definitely stretching it out there. But Robert, I'm going to tell you, a lot of times when you do hear from the spirit world, the information of however the medium is receiving it may be fast. It may be a symbol. It could be just a tone from a song or lyrics from a song. And so the medium can misinterpret it. However, with someone stretching, oh, it's a D or it's an S name or it's an M, that's no, because eventually you're going to hit on someone going, yeah, I know someone by that name.
I don't know. Are there frauds out there that are doing this kind of cold readings and they're just throwing things out there and hoping they stick, and then they have some kind of way of reading body language to keep embellishing on the story?
It's absolutely, that's been since the dawn of time. There's always going to be someone that's going to manipulate somebody else's pain or their fear or their grief. And a lot of the mediums that we have currently, I'm going to focus on the United States because that's where I live. There are a lot of individuals that have really started making a name for themselves. And so I'm going to use the word that they fall into a celebrity status, maybe for themselves, or that's where they think they are. So they will start doing so many readings and so much that honestly, I don't think that this is me, my opinion, you guys, but you know what? Doing this work, you have to take care of yourself. We are that vessel. And you just can't constantly be doing like, one reading after another reading. There has to be a focus, there has to be an intention. And I believe a lot of the mediums that are out there have found a cash cow, and they are using it to a point that it's unbelievable. And if I want to tap on that just a little bit further, but there are some, I'm going to use ethics and responsibilities that somebody that works with those that are grieving or that are healing, the first thing is do no harm. I mean, flat off, do no harm. And if somebody is giving advice or predicting a death or an illness, that we know you do not do that. That's doing harm. And if somebody claims to be something they are not, such as a nurse or a doctor or a healer, or saying their credentials are different than what they are, oh my gosh, if you're going to spend your money, do your due diligence. Read, look at their website, listen to what they're saying. And I know I'm on a roll on this because I've got such a passion about individual friends myself. I've had readings that they were absolutely BS. And let me just stop for a second there and let me just go back, is that I've learned with mediums. Now, there is a difference between a psychic and a medium. A psychic or an intuitive is somebody that reads energy. And they read the energy of the individual or the place or the thing, and it could be from the past, what's currently going on now, or what potentially could go on in the future. However, no one can predict your future. No one can. I don't care who you are, and you can argue with me till the dawn of the last breath I take. But it is the energy of the possibilities of what's happening. And so if somebody is going to predict a death or predict something, they have, I can't even finish my sentence here. We don't do that. That's causing harm. There's also mediums that feel like they have to go up to people they don't even know who they are, at a gas station, a bagel shop, grocery store, and start to tell them, hey, I got your dead brothers here. I've got your son with you. Oh my gosh. That is causing harm. We have no idea what state of mind that person's in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm going to play another clip, and it goes a little bit more into the cold reading.
Sometimes psychics may make laughably sure bets. For instance, here's John Edward in Huntington, Long Island, a town where nearly 1 in 5 residents are of Irish ancestry.
Is there a Brian Flanagan or O'Flynn or O'Sullivan or O'Reilly or some type of... Who's passed? Brian O something, Flanagan, Sullivan, something like that?
What are you doing? Brian O'Flanagan or O'Flynn or O-something, you're supposed to be speaking directly to people's dead relatives, not trying to guess the name of the Lucky Charms mascot.
Okay.
Wow.
You got to admit, that's funny. Have you heard of John? I don't know him. I'm not familiar with him.
John Edwards has been around for, years, 20, 30 years. And I have seen him a couple times at huge events. Mm-hmm. And he is a high energy medium. And I thought that, his work is, he's helping people. The one thing about John is that, and I think it has a lot to do with his personality, is that he will get frustrated with people if they don't understand it. And sometimes the recipient they're in shock that this is a possibility, that their loved one is with them and they don't remember. And it may take some time for them to go, oh my gosh. So, he's human, I'm human, but when you're giving a service, such as a reading, we have to be aware of our audience. And what I mean about that is the majority of everyone attending, they're grieving. They've had a loss. So, using something vague, such as a last name, like, with an O in it, or, a Jones or a Smith, or, I'm stuttering.
Well, see, also, I would have to see the entire reading, the whole night, to really be able to judge that clip. because all we're seeing is one side. We're seeing one little piece of this whole evening that who knows, it could have been 2 hours, and then he got into that part. So, but what this John Oliver is making it look like is, the guy goes to a place where there's a lot of Irish people and throws out a bunch of Irish names, and he knows he's going to get somebody. That might not be the case. Plus, I'm sure John Edwards goes all over the world doing readings, and probably gets. I don't know. I haven't really seen it, so I'd have to actually watch one to be able to comment on that. I just thought it was kind of a funny clip. But that gets me to the next one, and we have cold readings and then we have hot readings. And hot readings, what John Oliver explains, is where a fraudulent psychic will go and look at your history on Facebook or find clips about you online and then feed you that information, which probably does exist. Let's play the clip and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, perfect.
There's a reference to fishing, but he's talking about being spoken out loud to. I know what this is actually. I don't know if you're aware of this, but he's acknowledging that an individual will be out on a boat, and I feel like I'm sitting alone and I'm fishing, and I'm thinking Dad. And he's having me acknowledge this feeling of like, I'm there with you, I'm there with you.
My dad shared two passions with me. He shared golf and fishing.
Nice.
And I do go out and fish a lot alone on a boat. And this idea that might be a time to communicate with him, or that he's attempting to communicate, is phenomenal to me.
But he may have been using the other technique here of hot reading, which involves doing prior research on a subject. So, for instance, he could have read articles where Lauer talks about his father's passion for fishing, or seen interviews that Lauer gave, like this one.
My dad taught me how to fish. When I stand in a trout stream now, and I've got the waders on, and I've got a fly rod in my hand, or I'm fishing for bass, I think about sitting in a boat with my dad.
Look.
Okay, so that's pretty incredible. Tyler Henry. I've watched his stuff. He seems to be pretty legit. I don't know what you think about him. But yeah, what do you think about that hot reading clip?
I'm going to disagree. I don't think that was a hot reading. And that's just my opinion. And I've seen Tyler Henry do a lot of work. And was he having a bad day and he had some extra time, or he was overwhelmed and started to Google this information? I'm hard pressed to believe that, but I can be proven wrong.
Well, also, I don't think Tyler went and looked him up. He just got something right. And it also happens to be out there publicly. So it doesn't make it, not legit. But I'm sure this kind of practice does go on in the fraudulent mediums or psychic circles.
Well, yeah, I'd love to jump in on that one. So, I give my opinion on Tyler Henry, and I know that he's in that celebrity status, that he's got a television show and he works with, some well-known celebrities. And, does he have a group or a crew that works with him to do some research, and then he feeds it and remembers it all? Wow, I'd be impressed. I would be blown away and very impressed by that. However, as I mentioned, I've got a passion with those that manipulate people. And I mean, not just in mediumship, but in life, if people take advantage of those that, when they're down or they're out. And so I have done my own research on individuals, and I've intentionally had readings with mediums that, I went in with an open mind, but I also thought I'm not going to allow them to navigate me to say a yes when it's not a yes. So I've had 3 different readings by what I'm going to call celebrity mediums. And the first one was a female, and she was sharing with me that she had my grandmother and was giving me, it was kind of vague details, but I was like, okay, yeah, I think I did. I believe and she says, and she kept telling me, yes, you'll understand this. Yes, you'll understand that. Well, the more she kept saying, yes, you understand it, I found myself agreeing with her. And I found myself agreeing to some bits of evidence that I knew weren't accurate. And so when it was over with, she was gushing, this was the best. And I kind of walked away, and I thought to myself, I let her down by saying no. I should have said, I don't understand this. So if somebody I'm not going to use the word bully, but they keep continually pushing it at you, telling you, you will understand this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a medium, not everybody's going to understand all your information. Absolutely. There's going to be no's. And there's going to be, I don't completely understand it. But there's also a very kind way of going, okay, I could be getting this wrong. I may be misunderstanding. And we have to be accountable as a medium or somebody that's doing any sort of healing work or in the intuition world, is that we have to say, I'm having a bad day. I don't feel good. Or my energy's not connecting with you. But these, so with the female, I want to share another one. There's a male out there, and he's very well known. He had a talk show, or not a talk show. He was in Las Vegas. And he also had a show that people would ride around in a car with him. And after reading some information about him, the individuals he was picking up, they were paid actors. And so he knew the information about them. And it's so unfortunate, but I know it has to do with television, it has to do with ratings, and it has to do with money. And it's just not right. It's so not right.
Yeah, because you know, most reality shows are scripted, which I mean, people are starting to know about that. But I really would hate to find out that some of these Hollywood medium shows are scripted and made up. That'd be, you know, pretty awful. But I give them the benefit of the doubt. I haven't seen, you know, their entire reading. We're just seeing little clips here.
Right.
But it's possible. I've watched a couple of the Hollywood medium, Teresa Caputo, and I thought it was great. I think, you know, it sounded evidential. The next clip is with her.
Okay.
So I'm going to play that real quick, and then we can discuss.
Okay.
And this is actually a topic that I've thought of in the past. Like, you know, you're talking to someone, and there's a name that's supposed to come out, but she doesn't get the name. It's always like a letter. Let's watch the clip.
Okay.
You can see why people are vulnerable to psychics. A message from a lost loved one is something many people in the midst of grief would do anything for. And psychics may tell themselves that they offer a harmless way to deal with painful loss. In fact, just watch as Teresa Caputo pretty much spells that out in response to a fairly obvious question.
So when a tragedy happens, let's say a murder, if somebody comes to a loved one and the spirit of the person who was murdered is there, could that spirit potentially tell you who did it?
They will acknowledge maybe the relationship, but never will call someone out on a name.
Why is that?
My thing, how I use my gift, is I only want messages that are going to help someone through the healing process.
Oh, come on. First, to be clear, if I was murdered, I would definitely name names as a ghost.
It's pretty funny. He's got a point. Like, why can't spirit tell you the name? Hey, John Doe murdered me, and this is how he did it.
That there is kind of two sides to what how this was handled. Number one, yes, we would always want to know who is the suspect, who is the one that caused the harm, who murdered somebody. But also there is, as I talked about earlier, there's this thing called free will. And a lot of times we're not to get the information of the whodunit, or where the missing money is at, or where the gun is at, because it's for a part of us understanding and healing that we're not to have all the information while we're here in the physical, that we have to learn through the emotions of the event. With Teresa saying that she does it for the highest good, and if she was getting information about somebody that had caused a crime or a murder, I do feel like she would get that information if that's where her intention is set and that's what she would like to do. Now, I've got some of my own experience of working with receiving information about those that have been victims, gone missing, and have died. And there is limited information that we do get. However, we do get information, but it's not going to be absolute clear. We as mediums or psychics do not solve the missing cases. The police do. They're the evidence gatherers. So there's so many of these detectives out there now that forensic detectives or psychic detectives, and they are saying things that are coming from an ego, and it can be extremely harmful, especially if they reach out to a family and say, I know where your daughter's at, or I know where your husband is at. As somebody that is doing this work, again, it goes back to do no harm. We are not reaching out and soliciting our information. We don't. At least that's where I come from. It's a very strong responsibility, and there's ethics that are behind that.
So I guess the point that most people would say to that is, why can't Teresa in that particular reading get a full name? Why can't the spirit just say, it was Jennifer Brazier that murdered me?
Well, on Teresa's behalf, she may not have got a name. The loved one may not be providing their full name. Now, she may in her mind go, I want a name, give me a name. And she's not receiving it completely. And so she starts like playing with it. And as a medium, we can't play with it, because then what we do is we create it ourselves. And then that comes from the left side of our brain, is where we start to tell people what we want them to hear. And that's huge with cold readings, huge. So if somebody doesn't get information, they need to say, I'm not getting that. I'm not being given the name. I don't have that information. There is this group of skeptics, and there'll be a link at the bottom of the YouTube that we'll include if anybody is interested in it. But they create fake Facebook pages, fake Instagram, and they talk about different scenarios, and there's pictures. And so they go to specific mediums. And this one medium in particular, he has been known to do what are called hot readings. And there is proof behind this that he was doing a class, or he was doing some readings, and he started playing around with his computer, and he accidentally hit his history to see what he was searching on. And he had obituaries open, he had Facebook open, he had Ancestry open, and the name of a couple of the people that were in his group or in this reading. That to me is horrendous. Mm-hmm. Mediums will always give a message. They will always have a heartfelt message. And when it's evidential, there'll be details and memories that you're not going to find on the internet. It's going to be unique and specific for just that loved one. Not to say that there isn't going to be things that are out there.
I received readings where the information had happened, 2 weeks earlier, and I would have never written about it. It was just a very personal experience, but very detailed. So yeah, when you do get a reading from an evidential medium, it's mind blowing how accurate they can be. There's one more clip that I wanted to share about this woman, and she's a medium that gives this reading, and then the TV crew shows up and puts her on the spot.
Wow. Okay. And
I don't know if this woman is a fraud or legit, but this is a entertainment show that was posted on, and so they show her getting busted. Let's watch it.
Yikes.
Every now and then, when handled responsibly, a psychic on television is a delightful thing. Just watch this spectacular local news investigation of a psychic named Deborah Dominique, who, in exchange for $160, met an undercover reporter at a Denny's.
Our producer met her at a coffee shop, saying she wants to know what happened to Matthew, the 10-year-old boy in this photo.
It's so tragic.
After staring at his photo, she uses a special pendulum, claiming it allows her to talk with the dead.
They're saying he's not alive anymore.
And then she claims she is connected directly with Matthew.
He's wearing white. He's in heaven.
But is he? Because we're pretty sure Matthew, the boy in this photo, is not wearing white or in heaven. In fact, we know he's wearing black and is alive because you're looking at him sitting in the booth right behind her.
Yep, that boy is indeed in the opposite of heaven. He's in a Denny's. But wait till you see exactly how they bust her, because it is just...
It goes on, and we don't need to watch the rest, but then the news reporter comes out and puts what's her name? Deborah Dominique on the spot, and she's just like, wow, he's alive. Okay, what would you do? I mean, what if you gave a legitimate reading and then some news crew showed up and was like putting you on the spot, but you don't have anything, you're not trying to.
If there was a follow-up after a session that I have given or a reading and I was wrong, you got to admit you're wrong. And, if I don't know, with that woman there, I don't know her. I don't know anything about that. There may be a lot more to that story. And she said one or two things, and that's what they captured on. And they, went a little bit further with it. I'm not sure. But I do know there are individuals like her that, $160, that's a lot of money for someone to give to somebody that's manipulating them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very disappointing. Also, where we're talking about these individuals that charge, huge amounts of dollars for readings, there's also a group of, and I'm going to say maybe they're influencers in the healing word, the world, the mediumship world, is that they have a wait list. They're not doing any sort of sessions, but if you have an emergency, for a huge fee, they will see you. And you guys, I'm talking like $500, $1,000, thousands of dollars to talk to them for 30 minutes or for an hour. Please reconsider this money. No, that to me is really going down the level of financial greed, and those people will be found out. So.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's sad because these individuals that really are hoping to hear from their loved one, they're in a place of distraught. Some of them themselves are considering leaving this world. And if somebody is to make up information that could be harmful, there could be some really negative results. There is a woman that is also known in these circles, and she had a traumatic brain injury. I think she was hit by a vehicle. I'm not sure of the quite details here, but since this traumatic incident, she had a near-death experience. Now, I'm not an expert in that field, and I've not had one, so I can't really talk to that. But after this event and she healed, she's claiming that God comes through her and that she heals and cures people, and that her eyes start to blink when she is aware of a certain part of the body. And she's claiming that she can surgically heal people by focusing on these parts of their body. Now, that's the claim of this. If you dive a little bit deeper, of course, for some more money, she's going to give you some more information for some more money. And that is also a way of, it's upselling people, but my goodness. And, I was looking into the woman I'm just talking about here is a friend that's also a medium got a hold of me a couple of days ago and asked me, what did I think about her? So I watched her on YouTube a little bit, and then I responded back to my friend giving my opinion. And what I find is so completely bizarre, coincidental, is this random, but the medium I'm talking about that blinks her eyes, friended me or started following me on Instagram yesterday.
Wow.
That is, I literally had to hold my, what? I don't run in her circles.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that she is following me, it just took my breath away. So
yeah.
I also had a reading with a well-known male. And I also find this is interesting. I'd like to hear what other people think about this, is that these individuals that are the mediums or the healers, and they'll use names like their angel Tina or their Madam Sarah, and they will chime into your social media, and they'll say, looking at your picture, I can tell you that you've got some, relationship problems. Please reach out to me. Now, that just happened to me the other day. Somebody got on my social account and did that. And I was like, oh, girl, please. That is fraud right there. That's right there. But also, I had set up a reading in a small group. There was only going to be 6 of us. And after I paid for the ticket, the medium that I booked this with friended me on Facebook. and then started having a dialogue with me, talking to me about giving me positive feedback on some things and asking me if I would come to his event, and it would be free. He couldn't promise me a reading, but he says, I would love for you to be there. So fast forward, I didn't take him up on going to this reading. However, I did go to the group, and he did give me a reading, and it was pretty specific. You guys, the information he talked about was on my Facebook.
Mm.
So, at the time I was like, oh my gosh, he's brilliant. This is magic in the bottle. But he never gave a message. He would just throw names out. And now I realize a medium is always going to give you a message, you guys. So that's my opinion on these individuals. Unfortunately, I think that people have found that it's a very lucrative way of making a lot of money fast. There isn't a lot of certification out there for vet mediums. I'm going to kind of chime in on myself. I'm very proud of a certification that I received about 5 years ago, maybe a little longer, and it's through Mark Ireland, which is through Helping Parents Heal. He has a group of individuals that he vets, and there is a process that all of these individuals go through, and it's really, as you mentioned, Robert, earlier, is that we do readings and they're over the telephone. We don't see them. We only hear yes or no, or I need more information. And we do 5 of these readings, and then we are graded by the detail, the evidence that we provide. And if we aren't at the higher caliber, we do not pass the certification. So there's a handful of people on his certifiedmedium.com. So if any of you are looking for a medium, I would absolutely recommend you to go to these individuals. There's also a rating system out there. So if they give a reading and the reading is poor or inconclusive, you can also indicate that. So there's a transparency with this.
So I'll leave a link to that in the description of this video. And I was on Instagram last week, and someone friended me, and almost immediately instant messaged me through the Instagram, direct message platform. And she said, I don't do this often, but you seem special or whatever. Like, I want to give you a free reading. And I go into that with a lot of skepticism, but I'm not going to let her fool me. I just said, okay, go ahead, give me the free reading then. And 5 minutes later, I got this couple paragraphs, and it said, what's going on in my life. And you know what? It was pretty dead on. But so it raised my eyebrow. I'm like, wow, that's great. Thank you. And I said, thank you. Like, we're done here, right? And then came the pitch to, to donate money to some weird link. And that's when I got out of it, of course. So I can imagine that's going on quite a bit. And, the stuff that she said in this reading could have been copy and paste, because it applies, if you think about it, to almost everybody. It was general stuff. She was right. But I imagine if you take every, mid to late 40s man on the planet and threw this note out to them, you're going to get like 80% success rate of this, if this story fits them. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. And I had to unfriend her.
I also had a same situation like that someone got a hold of me, and they said, kind of on the same, I've drawn to you, and I am an artist, and I want to draw your soulmate. And I don't think you have found that person yet, and it's free. And I got this, and it came like really late at night. So in the morning I was like, well, this is weird. And I thought, well, it's free. So I responded, well, okay, I'll see. So she sends me a picture. You guys, it was dead on to what my husband looks like. Dead on. And then she says, but there's also other things going on in your life. And I have somebody that I want you to talk to. And her name is, and she gave me a name, DM her. And so I just thought, I'm going to keep pushing the envelope on this just to see what's going on. And so I did get a hold of this person. And for a lofty amount of money, she was going to be able to help me remove a spell so this man could come into my life. That's fraudulent. Again, a reputable person is not going to go out and do these. I feel the need to read you. I feel very strong about that. It's just, it goes back to, I'm trying to think of a scenario here, but they would talk about the people that would go to the tent shows and they would claim to heal, or they'd have the special magic potion. And, I think that a lot of people, they are good people, but they fall into, the veins of making fast money, or also they may have, mental illnesses that they like to prey off of people.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. One other thing that I really noticed with a lot of these mediums out there that are kind of have a tarnished reputation a little bit is that they have something else that they're trying to sell too. And, it could be vitamins, it could be something else. And, it may all be legit. I don't know. But it's always interesting that they have something else that they want to schlep to you. And my own opinion is, and I've spent years working with the spiritualists over in the UK, and that is not from the core of the pioneers of mediumship. That's not how this was done. It's not a magic potion. You don't need to have special vitamins so that you can hear from your loved one. You don't need to have a special salt rock sitting in front of you for this to work. So it's just unfortunate. And I guess the biggest thing, the takeaway that I would hope people would get is like, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right. Don't say, yes, I want to do it when your answer is like, no, thank you.
And do your due diligence.
Absolutely. Your money is hard earned. And if you're going to spend money for something, there has to be a service that you receive. And with myself, if I give a reading or a session or there's a group event and there is disappointment or I was not who I needed to be, I will cancel. I will give money back. So there needs to be, I know a lot of people say, well, there's no refund policy. We can't. This is really for entertainment purposes. We have to say that. It's an experiment every time a medium does this work. It's not always going to be absolute, and it's not always going to be dead on. So we have to be honest about that.
And we'll put the links in this video. And also you can find Jennifer at jenniferbrazier.com.
Correct.
And we have pastbutpresent.com, which has all the information on our TV program that we're producing. And we're almost done filming, so we hope to have that out by the end of the year.
So see you guys soon.